Welcome to Two Chicks and a Horror Flick, a weekly horror movie review podcast. I'm Tawny Ray.
And I'm Felicia Connor. Subscribe to get new episodes every Wednesday. We dive into trivia, drink a little whiskey, and of course, give our no BS opinions.
Join our Discord server or message us on social media to talk all things scary.
And if you like the show, consider supporting us on Patreon.
You can find all these links on our website, twochicksandahorrorflick.com. Thanks for listening.
Now let's get scared.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the podcast. Today we have a very special episode because we have very special guests, Jensen and Courtney from the Fright Crew. What up?
Hello.
What up, Fright Crew? Welcome.
Thank you. We are very excited. We've been talking about this for a long time. We've been very excited to talk about this movie, talk about it with you guys.
Right? We're a little nervous, honestly, just because, like, I don't know. We talked about it and we were like, did we go a little too hard on the weirdness? I don't know. We'll find out.
Jensen has been texting me and he's like, do you think they're going to think we're weird? And I'm like, well,
there's a possibility.
Most people do.
Yeah.
I already thought you were weird. In a very good, positive way. So if that makes you feel any better.
There you go.
And I feel like some of the stuff I've said and some of the stuff I've watched and really liked, I think I'm like the least person you need to worry about thinking you're weird.
That is why we get along.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Safe space here.
Yes. Yeah. So we are going to be talking about Angst from 1983. But real quick, before I skip over this, will you guys give just like a little plug and a little background about your podcast and where to find you?
Yes.
Yeah, definitely. I can definitely start. And if we do it again at the end or whatever, Courtney can do that one. So yeah, we are the Fright Crew. Jensen is me. Courtney, I know our voices sound the same sometimes. I'm so sorry. It's
and
the beard,
our opinions are always the same too. People are like,
that's true.
Get a personality, both of you.
Yeah, they're like, go sit down. Yeah. So, but yeah, we're the Fright Crew. We're pretty similar to you guys. We just kind of sit down weekly, talk about a movie, obviously horror, and yeah, we usually run a theme per month or whatever, and we definitely favor toward Courtney and I's tastes are like more the artsy style stuff, like Teton. If you guys hadn't covered Teton, we would have loved to do that.
Oh yeah,
it's okay. I'm not mad at you, but yes, that movie is fucking amazing, and so yeah, we do like the artsy stuff. I think Courtney would agree with that, but yeah, we just have a silly goose time over there. It's gets kind of raunchy sometimes, but yeah, we've been going for a couple years, similar with you guys too, right? So
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's crazy how fast time flies in this whole podcast sphere, but
yeah.
So, yeah.
Awesome. Well, we have some questions for you, and I have I'm going to throw you a curveball question probably in the middle here. What do you guys have like a favorite episode that you've done or a couple favorite episodes that you've done on your podcast?
I would say my favorite, because I was thinking about this for a long time today, because I love so many of them. But I think my favorite is probably Psycho. We had a good time on that one. That one was a really good time. Yeah, I just remember like after getting off that episode, I was like, that was a lot of fun. And my mom listens to our podcast and she will pick like specific episodes where she knows the movie. And that was like one of the first ones that she ever listened to also. And she was just like, you guys like just work really well together. And she loved that episode too. But I'd say that one's definitely my favorite.
Awesome.
Nice.
Okay.
Yeah, Psycho definitely ripped. And then for me, we did do like a breakdown of home invasion films with our friend Jason. And just that is like one of my favorite subgenres of horror because it's so like visceral and hence why we picked... technically, it's pronounced Angst. It's the German word Angst.
Yeah.
But yeah, I thought it was Angst for the majority of my life too. But yeah, it's Angst, I guess. So, but yeah, that's kind of why we picked it is because I love home invasion stuff. And yeah, so that was probably one of my highlights. We watched some really depraved shit as you would expect. I mean, just watching people break into houses and shoot them and stab them to death gets kind of like, you're just like, what is happening? So yeah, that was a fun week for sure. Kind of fun.
I loved that one too.
Yeah, that was a good one.
I was going to say, I'm noticing like a theme here. I can tell that this is a favorite subgenre.
Yes, yeah. More so mine, I think. Courtney likes it, right? But I think it's definitely one of my favorites.
I like it because like having somebody break into my house is my biggest fear. Like that to me is just so scary because horror movies, like a lot of it is like, oh, that could never happen to me. Like I'm going to go to camp and a killer's just going to come up from the lake and kill everybody. Like that probably isn't going to happen. But someone
It might.
I will never.
That's what I say. You need to be prepared.
I will never say never. But someone breaking into my house, like that very well could happen.
I agree with that, though, and it's something that I have been scared of since I was a child. Like, even as a kid, I used to have a fear and nightmares, and I had nightmares for so long about people breaking into our house just to, like, steal something, and in the process, they, like, murder people in my house and stuff. And I have always felt the same way as, like, the other things are kind of like, yeah, maybe they could happen, maybe you could be possessed, but the real life shit is always, like, scarier to me.
I agree.
I think.
Yeah.
Agree.
Yeah, because we've all been so desensitized by everything else. Like, you know, normies, I talk to them at work and they're like scared by The Conjuring. And I'm like, personally, it's just whatever.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
something like this movie, I'm like,
Have
oh
you
my
seen
goodness.
Angst?
Yeah.
And they're like, what?
What did you just say?
Speak English.
Well, we really like your podcast. We love your podcast and we think you guys are great. I have listened to several of your episodes, and most recently I have to drive to my daughter's school like an hour and a half early and sit there because the pickup line is insane.
Oh, yeah.
And I was like, you know what? I'm going to throw on an episode. And so I was scrolling through and I'm like, oh, The Witch. I love The Witch. I want to hear them talk about The Witch. And so it was playing and I was listening to it the whole time. And then I paused it when my little one got in and she was talking to me. And I'm like, okay, I'm just listening to a podcast. And she's like, okay, cool. And I played it. She's 8. When I played it, this is when you're saying, yeah, and they just, what did you say? I actually wrote it down because it was crazy. Ripping up the babies and ripping up the baby and like smearing. And she just looked at me and like, this was a movie. And so then I like hit the forward 10 seconds, you know, and there's like smearing it all over. Forward. And she's like, that's what witches do.
That's how they stay young.
That's what
and
witches
beautiful.
do. Yeah. And she goes, no. Like the stories of witches, you know, and I'm trying to explain it and I'm scrambling and she goes, oh, like Hocus Pocus.
Yeah, exactly.
And I'm like, yes, exactly.
In
like
the uncut
Pocus.
version of Hocus Pocus, they probably have something along those lines.
Unrated.
Hocus Pocus
And I was like,
2
oh,
is going to have even more
Yes.
babies being
I was like, oh, I have to write this down. I have
That's
to tell them this.
amazing. That's awesome.
That is funny. I am also going to tell my podcast. I think I've told other people about this. I don't know if I've gotten to directly tell you. I first heard Jensen, you on a podcast on Elm Street, and it
I
was
remember this.
This was a year ago now. Yeah, so it has been a long time coming. Yeah. And you were on there talking to them. I could not remember the movie for the life of me, but I went back and listened to today. But there was another movie that you mentioned in the episode that I was like, oh, this person, like same brain. It was Don't Look Under the Bed, which I literally just mentioned to Felicia in our last episode. Yeah. And I was like, yes, if you know this movie, like, you know. But I told Felicia, I was like, do not
don't know it.
Don't go watch it. It's not, it's
right.
Only good and scary if you watched it when you were like,
when you're a kid.
9. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It fucked you up.
Yeah. You know how it is.
And then with the Shipyard pumpkin beer, you were talking about that. That's one of my favorite beers. And so I was just like, yep, we got to get these people on. And
I
so
love that.
Yeah.
Isn't that
I
interesting?
remember that. And actually, that's why I cracked open. I had to go stop, get some pumpkin today.
Oh,
I wish I had known that. I would have gotten some pumpkin beer too.
Yeah, so I'm drinking Left Hand Brewery, which is a local Colorado brewery. Pumpkin Spice Latte Nitro. It's pretty intense.
I'm just glad you're not drinking that tall boy Natty Ice.
A Natty Daddy?
A Natty Daddy, yeah.
Or
for
a live
old time's
stream
sake.
a while back,
Maybe you
and
should've.
I drank a Natty Daddy or 2. Did I drink 2 Natty Daddies? I don't know, but I was lost. Literally, ladies, I was twerking online. Like,
I've never seen Jensen so drunk.
Oh my God.
In my life.
I don't appreciate.
Does it get
bringing
saved
up,
somewhere?
Courtney. Yeah, exactly.
It actually is. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Jensen has it in his archives. You have it still.
it's
You have it.
that was rough.
That is awesome. Okay, so you have some pumpkin beer on deck. Courtney, what are you drinking? Let's just take this moment.
Drinking these Grapefruit Rose vodka spritz.
Oh, okay.
Kind of bougie, but they're nice. They're good.
Is it like carbonated, like a seltzer?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's like a seltzer. It's just like not as sweet,
Okay.
but it has good flavor.
Nice.
I think
like
I've seen
grapefruit.
that.
I'm a
don't
grapefruit
either.
person.
Yeah. I think that's one of the gluten-free vodkas, though.
Yeah, I think it is too. Yeah,
It's my
'cause
favorite
like
vodka. I love Kettle One.
Me too, because I'm not a big vodka person, but I can get down on this.
What are you guys drinking?
I am not as exciting as you guys. I am drinking I ran in there and I'm like, I forgot a drink and we have nothing. But I found this in the fridge. It's a Well-Being IPA. It's non-alcoholic. And this is one of the non-alcoholic beers I actually really, really like.
Okay.
With this other one that Tawny drinks as well. It's so good. And it actually does have like that good IPA flavor.
Like the hops.
It's really hard. Like I went on this thing where I was trying all these different non-alcoholic beers, and this one is one of my favorites by Well-Being.
Okay. Yeah, sounds dope.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Healthier.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have my vegan dinner later. No, I'm just kidding. I'm having enchiladas. I'm joking.
Oh, that's a good mix.
I was talking to some friends at work this week, and we were talking about our drink of choice, and I was like, normally I do like whiskey, like bourbon specifically, but I don't like it in the summer. It's too hot for that. I like to go to these like seltzers. And so, but since I talked about that, I was like, I kind of want some whiskey. So Jade stopped at the store on the way home, and he didn't get bourbon, but he did get Aberfeldy Scotch whiskey.
That looks fancy.
It's pretty good. Yeah.
Scotch whiskey. I've never had that. I love bourbon too. And I disagree. It's never too hot. But is it yummy? Is the Scotch? I've never had Scotch.
I do like it. Like I think I had started drinking this as one of my first whiskeys, like right when we like met and started doing the podcast, Felicia. And I liked it then. I was really surprised that I liked it. But now that we've switched and done a lot of bourbon drinking, now that I've come back to this, it tastes really different. It has
Do you just like drink it on the rocks?
Yeah, like I just throw an ice cube in there. And it's like, I don't know how to describe the taste, but it's like a lot more like, I don't know. Like
Scotchy?
Deep, like nutty, like earthy or something. There's
Woody.
like something woody. Okay.
Woody.
Yeah, that's a great word. That's, yeah.
And it's funny because I'm not a bourbon drinker at all. So I'm like just making shit up.
No, but that's spot on because it just tastes different than the bourbons. So,
Okay. Interesting.
yeah.
Yeah, you guys are kicking it tonight. I'm just like, well, I mean, I guess Felicia, you're not, but yeah, I'm probably gonna stick with just the beer, and I don't
looks
drink
good, though.
hard
I'm gonna have to
alcohol,
try
so
that.
yeah, this one is pretty solid.
I wish I
Perfect
was
fall
drinking that beer. That
I'll send you
nitro.
one.
That sounds good.
Yeah, that's pretty solid.
Another good pumpkin beer that I had just discovered because I couldn't find any Shipyard Pumpkinhead up here is Elysian Night Owl.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
It's
so,
very similar.
Oh yeah, so they're a Washington-based brewery, and like when I went out there the first time with my wife, we actually stopped and went to one of their like microbrew houses or whatever, and I tried that one, and I was just like, holy shit, this is amazing, and their food was great, and then so yeah, they're expensive, but they're good. They sell them here at all our liquor stores and stuff too. Their like fall pack is really great. I recommend. So
I do want to throw a totally random question for you guys. Throw you for a loop here because we have decided that this month our theme is going to be Scary September because we want to watch the scariest movies we can watch. And I'm sure you guys experience this too, where it's like, you know, once you get to be an adult, everything kind of stops being scary and you can still watch and like movies and things can be creepy. But like, I really miss being actually scared. And we had a conversation about last year in October, like all I wanted was to watch something that was going to like really, truly scare me. So what would be your like top picks for like the scariest movies that you've seen as adults or as a kid, if it still holds up?
That's hard. I'm going to let Jensen go first. It's your go.
you would.
It's your turn.
Oh man, I mean, I feel like a lot of that buys into the watching experience, which for me, typically if it's in a theater, definitely helps the situation. So two that I've seen in theaters that are modern films are The Witch and Hereditary. A little pretentious, yes, but at the same time,
no. Epic.
Yeah, I know you guys would agree, so that's good. I'm in company for sure. But yeah, like The Witch, I just saw it on like a random like Thursday, I feel like. I just went, my wife and I went, and there was like 2 other people in the theater, and I was like, that looks cool. You know, this is like, honestly, so The Witch is kind of where I can thank getting into horror as deeply as I am, because not to spoil the witch, I'm so sorry, but like when the witch kills the baby, as we were explaining in that episode,
ripping that baby.
yeah, exactly, just rubbing it
Using
all
it
over
as
her
a
body.
moisturizer.
Exactly. I was just like so taken aback, and I remember just leaving that theater with like no words to say. And kind of same thing with Hereditary. That kind of buys into the same thing. I was in the theater and I was just like looking at this screen like, what is happening? There's like banging heads on the fucking ceiling and like heads hitting posts, and it was chaotic. And so those are definitely some of the ones that come to mind, I'd say.
Okay.
Good ones.
Yeah.
I would say for me, there's like one in my brain that like I kind of recently watched. It's called The Eyes of My Mother. I had Jensen watch that one too. Yeah. But it's a great film. It's a beautiful film. It's filmed like very, very nicely, like black and white. But there's just like a beginning scene in the movie. I won't spoil it because it's not like it's fairly-ish new. I think it's like 2019, but there's a scene in that beginning of the movie that like completely like fucked me up. Like it made me like physically ill, and like I just like almost couldn't finish the movie. And that's hard for me to say too, because I can watch anything. Like I've watched the most insane movies you can imagine, and like I don't feel much about it. I'm like, oh, that's a lot of blood, or oh, that's a lot of guts. But that one like really did mess with me, because it is like a realistic thing, like another home invasion type thing. Like that one definitely messed with me. And then Jensen and me, like this is a movie like we rated super high in like our top 10 of 2021, the movie Possession. That one messed with me too. Yeah. And it's not like a horror movie, quote unquote. We're actually going to pick that one for today, but it was it's really hard to find online. But it's just like those realistic movies where you're like, oh shit, like that could happen to me. Or like, you know, somebody like something like that happened to. Like those are the movies that mess with me the most. So I'd say off the top of my head, those two. I'm sure there's more, but
good one.
Just that I can think of like off the bat.
I do want to say that I think the one you picked for today fits.
Yeah.
Unknowingly fits totally this scary September.
And this one too, like messed with me also. Like the first time I watched it, like there's a specific scene we will talk about that like really messed with me. And like I had to pause and be like, I need to step away from this before I keep watching it. But yeah, it's always those realistic ones where you're like, that probably happens like more often than we like to think. But
yeah. I mean, that's like, we're in the same boat, definitely. Like anything that's grounded in reality, like obviously we've been so fine tuned to horror that we know any film coming out these days when there's going to be a jump scare, just by context of what's happening, we just know we know how to expect it. So that doesn't really affect us. So like there's like this new movie on Netflix called Incantation. I don't know if any of you guys watched it yet. It's pretty popular. It's a, I believe, Cambodian film. I could be wrong. Chinese possibly. And it's just chock full of jump scares and stuff. And I know that affects a lot of people, but us horror folk who like know when to look for it, it doesn't really do much. So I think we kind of have to revert to other things that are like visceral home invasion stuff.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's my kind of thing. So if I want to get really creeped out, that's typically what I have to do. Or it has to cross that line of like, what is happening? Kind of like It Follows. Where it's like you're just questioning everything and like doubting everything. Like, is this fucking reality even real? Like what's happening? So yeah, definitely things like that too.
I think we're in good company because I think I just said this to Tawny last episode when we were chatting afterwards. I was like, I want to be deeply disturbed.
Yeah.
I would like to be deeply disturbed.
Which is like a weird request, but also yes.
But like, because like sometimes I'll be like, I really want to watch like a super sad movie. I want to cry. And then I'm like, I want to be like horrified and sick to my stomach after this movie. And it's like hard because like with like myself and Jensen, like he said too, it takes a lot for me to feel that way. And like, I haven't found a movie recently that like has actually made me feel like really like just gross. So if you guys have any recommendations, I would love to have to take a full body shower after watching a movie at some point soon.
I don't know if I have much to, you know what I was going to say when you're talking about like, because I feel like there's things that are kind of around fear that maybe aren't exactly fear, but they're closely related. And like Disturbed is one of them. And I think that's kind of why some of this stuff is closely related. I love Dread, which is why I loved The Lodge and why I love Hereditary. Hereditary had other things going on. But yeah, it's like, I think you get to be an adult and you realize this is all fake. And so you kind of need to like move into these other areas that are like similar. So yeah.
Yeah. Tawny, I really think you need to watch Resurrection, and I need your opinion tomorrow.
Okay.
That's been on my list too. He's been getting me to watch that. Trying to get me to watch that, and I keep forgetting about it.
I don't want to overhype it.
I'll watch it this weekend.
And it is coming to Shudder, I think, at the end of this month. So if you'd rather wait for that, then feel free. But I need all the opinions. I'm going to make note of
it now, so I remember.
Okay. I know if I look down, that's because I have like my notes open.
Yeah, I have my notes.
I'm looking at my letterbox. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I put that down. Yeah. Okay.
The only other one that I will not shut up about, and I'm sure you guys like already have heard me talk about this probably, is Caveat. Caveat is the only one that go.
I was just going to say, I listened to your guys' episode on it, and because I struggled so fucking hard with Caveat, I could not get into it at all. So weird. I think it's like, kind of like Felicia, you said with The Lodge, like, I think I just was being a dick that day, and I just need to rewatch or something, you know? I don't know, because I could not vibe with it at all.
I mean, it is supernatural, right? Which...
Yeah.
When I think about the movies that have scared me the most, they all have an aspect of supernatural. So I think that does tend to resonate with me on some level, that it scares me. Not every single one gets me, but those, for whatever reason, like Hereditary, Caveat, The Ring, when I was a kid, when I watched it for the first time, all of those things scared me. But something about Caveat, it's really atmospheric, and it's like so low budget, but I just really appreciate it. Yeah. But I think that would be my only other... wreck. So Felicia and I were like, we're going to have to pick things that we haven't seen. Like, we're going to have to, go outside.
Well, if you guys
can
can track it down, Possession definitely is worth, like Courtney said, it teeters that line of horror. It's definitely drama. It's emotional. You're going to kind of feel like a fucking wreck at the end of it. But it is Sam Neill, like one of his first roles when he's real young and sexy. So,
so we love that.
You really like sparked a curiosity within us, and now we do really want to watch it. And the fact that we can't get our hands on it has made it even more enticing. So
it sucks.
It really does. Yeah,
it's definitely in our future. We're watching it.
No, I mean, if I have a lot of like Arrow Video Player and all the streaming services, so if I ever see it pop up on anything, I'll definitely send out the PSA.
Yeah,
it's worth it. It's worth
Let
your
us
time.
know. I mean, we're ready to drop $20 on a DVD though.
Yeah, it's just insane to me. Like, you can't just rent it on like Amazon Prime. I'm like, why are you hiding these beautiful films? I don't know.
Yeah.
It's rude.
It is rude. It should be illegal.
So I know you guys have already talked about this a little bit, but do you want to give just a little bit more information about why you chose this movie to watch and talk about with us?
I'll have you. Because you kind of picked it, and I agree.
I'm above you in my screen, so I'm like, play that. Sorry. Oh man, I mean, I think Courtney, you've seen this before. You saw this before I did, a couple years ago or a few years ago.
Yeah, because I recommended it to you when we did our home invasion episode. Because we were talking about like home invasion movies, and I had like somewhat recently watched this one. Because it was a recommendation from somebody who's also super into horror movies. She had like posted about it on her Instagram one day, and I was like, damn, like that movie looks good. I should watch that. And then I watched it, and I was like, holy shit. And then I kind of just like didn't really remember it or talk about it much. And then when that home invasion thing came up, I was like, Jensen's gonna freaking love this movie. And he did. And I'm glad he did. Because I'd be kind of awkward if he didn't.
It's one of those ones that was on Shudder for the longest period of time. And of course, right when we go to record this, it's off of fucking for whatever reason. But it was on there for the longest time, and it would just pop up anytime you would go into the search bar and type in A, it would pop up automatically. And so I would always see it. And I thought the poster, like I have it on my phone right now, I always got the vibe of like the girl in the picture looks like Michelle Williams, like the actress Michelle Williams, like the, I don't know, like in like modern film, whatever. I don't know what she's in. I can't think, drawing blanks, but yeah, I was like, that looked like Michelle Williams. So I was always tempted to click on it. I just never did. But then she told me to like check it out. And I just,
yes, it does. I can see that.
yeah. Okay. I'm not alone in that.
No.
So I just, it's kind of like, it fills my cup to the brim with things I like about film, because you get the artist's interpretation of what this person's, because like, I don't know how much trivia you guys pulled, but I did pull some trivia just to help out. It is kind of loosely based off a real life serial killer, or multiple killer as they call them. So just like an insight into someone's brain, and especially when you have like a real artist like this director, just giving that perspective is super interesting to me. And the way that it's shot, I cannot wait to talk about that aspect. Like, so fucking crazy to me. So,
and it's just super unique too, because when I watched it, I was like, I've never seen a film like it, where you're like completely in the perspective of like the main character the entire film.
The
like you're in his brain.
Yeah.
And like that is scary too, because like there are people like that out there, and like just being like right there front and center, like watching it happen is horrifying.
Right. And I do like, there's a little bit of jank. Like there's a couple shots that like don't really make sense, and you're like, why is that in here? But when the camera moves, you're like, okay, well, I'm back in it. And yeah, it's just, I like a film that isn't perfectly tight knit, and it does have those like loose edges and stuff. So I don't know. There's something about this movie, not to gas it up too much, but oh yes, we get into the discussion.
I know.
Like, so anyway, this movie fucking sucks.
We'll see. We will see. Felicia and I, we haven't.
We don't talk about it. Yeah.
Okay. And hey, I hope you guys are honest, because we can go back and forth and it'll be fun. So if it is negative, so.
Okay, so we are talking about Angst from 1983, which is it's an Austrian film, right?
Yeah.
I'm gonna just fuck up all these names, I'm sure. So
it's hard. I know.
Yeah,
I fuck up every single day. So.
I don't know. I don't even know how to start pronouncing German, so you'll have to excuse me.
I don't even know slack.
I don't even know if that's the right language. Gerald Kargl might be Austrian. I don't know, right? Because there's different. I don't know. I probably sound like an idiot. That's fine. But he has not done like anything else. And I came across a piece of trivia that said that's because of the controversy surrounding this film, which I don't know. It was kind of hard to find more about this than I found. So I do have some trivia, but not a ton. I'll be super excited, Jensen, if you have some to add on top of what I was able to find. But yeah, so that's him. Then for cast, we have Erwin Leder as Kay the psychopath, Sylvia Ryder as daughter, Edith Rossett as mother, and Rudolf Gotz as son. I couldn't find any budget or box office information, so I just have ratings for you. And Rotten Tomatoes gave it 100%. Shockingly, you just don't see that very often. So.
Yeah.
100%.
100.
Wow.
Yeah, I actually just saw that yesterday, I think, me and Jensen, because we did our episode yesterday, and we were like just kind of chatting about some stuff before we hopped on to this episode, and I was looking at the ratings. I'm like, holy shit, 100%. Because I can't even like recall when I've seen that with any other film before.
Me neither.
Like I've seen high, like 95, 93.
Yeah.
But I've never seen 100.
Even like 98, you're like, holy shit. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then we have 82% of Google users liked this movie, and Letterboxd, it has a 3.7 out of 5.
Yeah.
Any other thoughts before I get into 2 Minutes with Tawny?
I mean, not to like spoil like my rating or anything. I mean, I've been hyping it up this whole fucking time anyway, so may as well. Like, I definitely agree with those ratings personally. So yeah, I'll just put that out there. Yeah.
All right.
And it does make me happy to see that it did get good ratings, because I feel like movies like this that we've talked about before get such a bad rap, and people are like, oh, like this movie's awful, or they don't understand it, or they're like, just don't see like the quirks of it and like the positive stuff. And then you see it has like a 2 out of 5 somewhere. And like me and Jensen are like, why the fuck did people rate it so low? Yeah. And then you read the reviews and it's like people that just don't appreciate like just horror movies in general and they don't get it. But I am happy to see like this movie is appreciated for what it is.
Right. And definitely, actually, we were just talking about this last night, Courtney, when we were recording. I told her, I found this out with my therapist, surprisingly, that I'm not like a big, like, I don't know art that well, like painting and stuff. But if I go to like a modern art museum or whatever, and I see like an abstract painting where it's like the lines and circles and stuff that's just kind of shapes and random shit to me, I personally kind of go, I don't really get it. But then someone's over there like sobbing. They're like, oh my God, it's beautiful, you know? And I feel like that's how we kind of look at film is we're kind of more into the abstract stuff that is definitely heavily stylized that, as we talked about earlier, we would not recommend to the average person. Obviously, they'd be like, what the fuck? I'm never speaking to you again. So,
because I think the colors, like the way things are filmed, like some people are like, oh my God, like I hated that. That gave me a headache. Like that made no sense. And like sometimes for me too, like the found footage films, like will make me nauseous. And that's why I don't like them a lot of the times. And like this movie in particular, like the way it's filmed, it is kind of like a little kooky in some ways, like with the way the camera is like panned on his face and it's like moving super crazy. And like I love it in this film, but like in other films, I probably would be like, oh my God, like I was going to vomit watching this movie. Like it made me so nauseous. But for this one, it definitely worked.
All right, so I'm going to give you the quickest, well, maybe not the quickest summary, because I think I've done shorter than this, but I kept this pretty short because it is a short movie, especially compared to ones that I feel like we've been watching. But turn back now if you don't want this movie spoiled for you. And here we go. A serial killer is released from prison, and we get an insight into his thought process, which is completely focused on finding new victims. He walks into a diner where he sees 2 women that he wants to take, but can't find a way to do so without drawing attention to himself. He hops in a taxi and arrives at a random house that he breaks into to find a man in a wheelchair. Soon after, the man's mother and sister arrive, and the killer attacks them and ties them up while he drags the man upstairs and drowns him. Going back downstairs, he finds the mother dead and tries to revive her so she can watch while he tortures the daughter. While he's doing this, the daughter manages to free herself and runs out of the house, but he catches her in a tunnel, stabs her, tries to drink her blood, and falls asleep on her. The next morning, he wakes up and decides to take the bodies of the family with him so that he can show his next victims, hoping that it will scare them. He hits another car, runs, and returns to the same cafe he was at the day before. The police find him and check the car to find the bodies. He's pleased with the shocked reactions of the police, and the film is closed by a VO of a medical record stating that he was driven to do these terrible things because of his unstable childhood. The end.
Pretty
Short
much.
and sweet. That was like perfect.
Yeah.
It's all the information you needed because there's not like a ton that goes on, but for what it is a lot when you're like watching it.
Yeah.
But like there's not a lot of characters. There's not a lot of like craziness, not even a lot of gore, but it's still like terrifying in its own way.
There's not a lot of like subplot. It's pretty straightforward.
It's pretty straightforward. This dude gets released from prison and just kills a bunch of people and eats some sausages. Pisses me off with this greasy ass mouth.
Oh yeah, very gross.
I hate it. I like have to fast forward through the parts where he's like devouring sausage and mustard. I'm like, God. Why?
What is wrong with Austrian people just fucking walking
like holding
in
a sausage
11:30 a.m.? What are you doing?
Yeah.
Fucking go
He like
home.
goes to a diner and like orders a sausage on a plate.
He didn't even fucking order. She just
He didn't even say
delivers
this.
it.
She's like, here's your sausage.
She's like, here's your sausage and mustard squirted on the plate. Enjoy.
And then he stared into people's souls as he ate it.
There's like grease around his mouth.
Okay, so who wants to kick us off on how you felt about this overall? I mean, obviously you guys really liked it, but
I've been talking nonstop. I feel like I'm desperate to hear Tawny, especially. I feel like there's an edge to you. I'm really ready to hear you unload.
She's like keeping a straight face, which I like. So I'm like, we can't tell.
Yeah.
She's gonna explode.
I got a poker face. Okay, so Jensen, we'll just skip you. Courtney, why don't you go next though? Because you're a guest.
So overall, like I've always enjoyed this film. Like I recommended it to Jensen. I've recommended it to other people as well. People that I think would appreciate it, because there are some people that, of course, would give me the what the fuck reaction. But I enjoy this film a lot because it is different, like with like found footage. Because I wouldn't say this is found footage exactly. It's kind of like documentary style, I would say, a little bit. And like usually those kind of movies I don't like that much. But this one is just like unique in its own way. Because you are just following one person the entire movie, pretty much. You see it from their perspective, you get their commentary, which like, again, is something you don't see often. Just the way that it's filmed. It's simple, but it does its job. And it sticks with you. Like this is a movie like you are always going to remember. Like, especially when someone talks about like a home invasion film, like this was what came to my mind immediately when we did that topic. I was like, we have to talk about this movie. And we did. And we're talking about it again.
Now we're doing it.
And now I'll never stop talking about it. Yeah. Do you want me to go next? I feel like Felicia's the wild card. I don't know.
Oh, okay. All
really?
right.
I think you're a wild card. I don't know how you feel.
Okay.
Oh.
Do you want me to go next?
Yeah, do it.
I honestly am up in the air. I don't know how to feel about it because there were some things I really liked and then there were some things I really didn't. But I will agree that it stuck with me and I liked what was happening. And for some fucking weird reason, I did like the camera work.
Yeah.
Jensen, like you mentioned,
Yes.
I was
it's
like
chaotic.
Yeah, and it's like not good. I wrote down in my notes, it feels like somebody who knew what they were doing had to do this job with all broken equipment. And like, I kind of like it. I don't know.
Yeah,
it's really weird.
It's like those videos when people give their kids their phone and their kids like running with it. Like
Yes.
that's what this movie is. Pretty much to a T.
Yeah, kind of. And you're kind of like, oh, it's still coherent. Like I know what's happening here. There just was some really like, I feel like there was some really compelling stuff. And then there was some other stuff that just left me wanting. And like, this is going to sound a little fucked up, but because it is a fucked up movie, but it does take you a minute to kind of get there. And then I kept expecting it to like ramp up even more than it did.
Yeah.
And it kind of didn't. And it didn't like go anywhere else that I thought it was going to go. So in some ways that was like kind of disappointing, even though I had no expectations going into the movie because I knew nothing about it. I have never even heard about this movie before you guys brought it up to us. So I didn't like look anything up or anything. But so I'm like very neutral. There's like things I liked, things I didn't. That's where I landed.
Okay.
I kind of agree with that. Like, I feel like there should have been a little bit more. And when I heard about this movie initially, like people are like, oh, this is the most fucked up movie you're ever going to watch. And like this movie was banned and this movie was this and that. And like, I expected a lot more like, what the fuck? Like, oh my God, that was insane. And like we do get there. It does take a minute. And then once you get there, it kind of stays there. And then that's it.
Yeah.
Like the beginning of it is like pretty tame. And then you get to that part. And then like the rest of it is pretty tame. But it's like a slow burn, like we say.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, like slow burn is definitely a word to use for it. But like, I just feel like the camera is like attached to him, which as the viewer are definitely just inserted into his brain, his psyche. And that would be if it were, because it's almost like first person. You know, it's kind of like what Courtney keeps saying about found footage. Like it is in that similar vein of, I feel like I'm attached to this person because it literally was attached to this contraption around him. And even the shots that are like wider of him like breaking into the home, running through the woods, still feel so isolated that, and he's the only thing on screen.
Yeah.
That you just are like fully sucked into his brain.
Yeah.
So like for me, even just when he starts talking about when he gets let out of prison, and he's thinking about his next victim automatically, like he had no family, he says, like he's just looking for his next victim, was just incredible to me. I felt sucked in right away. And yeah, I could see where like a lot of people saying like it's the craziest thing you've ever seen. I think a lot of people when we say that are expecting like a Serbian film, like
Yeah.
you know, like blood and guts and shit and vomit,
And
like
things
things
that
like
are
that.
like
But
pretty unrealistic.
yeah,
Yeah.
but I also feel like you guys saying that it takes a while to get to that real big tipping point, and I know what you're talking about is kind of like why it's the most disturbing film out there. One of them, because it's just like you're so inserted into this man's brain that when that finally happens, it just kind of all comes to fruition and you feel destroyed.
Yeah.
That's just how I feel. But so.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Felicia, I'm very interested.
Me too.
How did you feel about this movie?
So I am really excited for our conversation because it was such a wild ride for me. When it started, I was like, oh, maybe I'm not watching the right thing. No, I am. And I'm like, okay, it's a little weird, but that's cool. I like weird stuff. It's fine. No, he's in the diner and all that. And I'm like, okay, we're all right. I like that we're in his head. That's kind of cool. I've never seen that side. And I think, I've said this before, serial killers and things like that. That's one of the most terrifying thing to me. So, okay, this is cool. This is cool. Then I'm like, what the fuck? I felt like I can't with this movie. That's literally what I slacked Tawny. I can't with this movie. And it was mainly when we're going to talk about it, but he's like rolling on the floor and up to the kitchen. And I'm just like, fucking stand up. Like, I was just like, what is happening? And then, and we'll talk about it later, so I won't mention before, but then there is that scene with the girl. And all of a sudden I thought, holy fucking shit, this is terrifying. And then everything that happened after, I disagree on the point that it slowed down again. I thought it was just worse and worse because it looked so real. Now, of course, I've never seen that in real life, thank God. But what I would think it looked so real. And it just brought me into this as really happening, and I'm watching this happen. And it was so deeply disturbing. Yeah. And so then it made me, and I watched this like 4 or 5 days ago. I've been thinking about it every single day. And then I rewatched it today. At first I was like, I don't think that I can ever rewatch this. And then I'm like, no, I want to rewatch it because some of the things like the only seeing him, I was like, I don't like this because I don't know where I am in the house. I don't know what's going on. But you saying that how now we are him in his world, I was hoping the conversation for those little pieces that maybe I felt I didn't like, I had this little bit of, I wonder if I'll end up liking them, because if they're intentional, and then that will be incredible for me. So I liked this film, and I felt like after this conversation, it may be one of those films that I like even more after hearing you guys talk about it.
Yeah, I mean, just like buying into that too is the fact that like we get the shot kind of a peaceful like sunny day when he's being released from prison, and it's like that. I don't even know how the fuck they got that shot.
Dude, that's
it, like,
one of the first things I wrote down.
Right?
Is
how?
Yeah, that first shot. How?
Yeah,
that's all I wrote.
Yeah, like nowadays it would be a drone.
Yeah,
pretty fucking simple shit. But I'm like, yo, did you all like tie a cable up to the clouds? And then it's just gliding. What is happening? So I don't know how they did that. A very large pole, I guess. But it kind of like, it's kind of this beautiful day. There's literally birds flying by, but we're already getting into, I think this is when we're getting the other man talk about him as a case file, basically. I believe so. And it's just like, but then as soon as we get back to him released from prison, even like when he's shaving himself with no mirror, it's just chaos. And oh man, I don't know. It's a lot. Yeah.
The whole movie's chaos.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like, you don't really even need any sort of, what's the word I'm looking for?
Like backstory?
Words.
Right.
Like you don't need any, what's the word I'm looking for? Not words.
Like exposition.
Yeah. Like it could just be like a silent film even. And
you
would know exactly what was going on. Yeah. Narration. Yeah.
That is
like,
definitely something I've wanted to bring up is like, typically I'm not a fan of narrated films, obviously, but without it, this film would be not anywhere near it is what it is.
It would still be like, you'd still be able to follow along. You'd still be able to like figure out what was going on. Cause there's not a whole lot of like narration anyways. But it would
in this movie.
You're right. Yeah.
My dude, rewatch it.
I watched it like 4 times.
Bro, I feel like the entire film is narrated.
No, I'm saying like if there was no narration, like you could still figure out what was going on.
Yeah.
I don't think it would be as disturbing though.
It wouldn't be. No way. But it would still be like a visually appealing film.
Of course.
And it would still be like very entertaining. But you're right about the narration. Yes. Cause it like, again, like you're right into his brain. Like you know how he's feeling, you know what he's thinking. Like the second he gets out of jail, he's like, I've been in jail like half of my entire life. Like, I can go right back because I know what I want.
Yeah. And that's like the part of it that's so disturbing is how he's talking about how much it tickles him to do what he wants to do. And that's why like,
and he's just been looking forward to it like the whole time. He's got 10 years to plan what he wanted to do. Then he gets out and he's like panicking because he's like, oh my God, he's like in the taxi. And like the taxi driver's like, you're a fucking weirdo. You're going to kill me. Cause like he wanted to kill those girls in the diner. And like, he just doesn't know what to do because he's just so filled with like all of those feelings that he just wants to let him out immediately. And like, he probably would have done that in the diner and then
if he could
right back to jail.
Yeah, if he could have done it. I this is one of the things that I think is really interesting and well done. I also went back today. I watched it a couple days ago, went back today and kind of like skimmed through it. And I guess I didn't pick up on the first watch just because I'm along for the ride, how many run-ins he has with people that he would have killed had he had the opportunity. But it just was like happenstance that he couldn't, right? So he finally gets to this house and is able to kill them. And it was like, it does make you sort of think like who is out in the world?
Like wrong place, wrong time.
Yeah. Like how many times have I been in this situation where like I've just narrowly avoided fucking disaster. Yeah. It's that is itself is very terrifying. Yeah.
That's why you bring knives when we go camping.
Right.
That's why you lock your doors.
Eating sausage. I'm telling you. If a man is eating sausage at a diner,
run.
Leave.
Aggressive sausage eating.
If he's holding a sausage in his bare hand with mustard, that's when
God. The moment, I just want to say the first moment that he was doing that, I literally like wrote down, eating this sausage, fucking ew, cannibal, ? That was my thought process in that moment. I thought, I'm going to see this guy eat somebody. And I thought, how did they pick the most perfect movie for Felicia and I to watch ever in the history of us to watch? It's like you picked up on the things that are scariest to us. For Felicia, it's like true crime. I mean, for me too, like that also scares me. One of the most disturbing things for me is cannibalism and people eating people. Like disgusting. I was like, how did they find this? Is a fucking like deep cut pick for us specifically.
Right. Yeah. That would be wild. So Tawny's just sitting there, she's ready for it, and then it just never comes. Oh well. I really want to come back to the camera work. I feel like we've already talked about it, but I want to come back because one of my notes as I was watching is I was like, this movie reminds me of a lot of different movies. It reminds me of Behind the Mask by The Rise of Leslie Vernon, I think is the title. Have you guys seen that?
Yeah.
It's been a very long time since I've seen it, so I don't remember a lot about it, but it reminded me of that just in the plot. But I also wrote down that it reminded me of Enter the Void and Silent Hill, which I love.
Mm-hmm. I love Silent Hill too.
Yes, because that really high camera angle.
Right.
But I also don't know how to pronounce his name. But Enter the Void is also a movie by Gaspar Noé.
Oh, okay. I think it's No. Yeah. See, I've never seen that one, but it's he's definitely an interesting director. Gaspar Noé. Yeah.
Yeah. Not a fan because I've only seen Enter the Void, but it's one of those movies where at the end I was like angry. I was like, I can't believe that I just spent so much time watching this. There's some really great parts to that movie. Yeah. But overall, I was like, what the fuck did I just watch? I just hated it. And he also did Irreversible, Climax. I didn't write down any of the other ones. He's done actually a ton. But also wrote down that he's seen this like 40 times and loves it.
Yeah. I mean, for your listeners who don't know Gasper Noé, he also did Love, which was like on Netflix, or still is possibly. It's like the opening shot is literally a dude getting jacked off by a female. So like to put it out there, he literally comes on screen. So things like that, that's the kind of director he is. And like right now he has 2 films in the festival circuit. One of them, the entire film is cut in half, and you're seeing 2 different, like you're seeing one perspective for the man and one for the woman. And it's like an older couple in a fight or something. It's like an hour and a half of just split screen the entire time. And then, Irreversible is a film that plays in reverse. So you see the end of the film first, and then it goes to the beginning. He's like, he pushes the boundaries. Sometimes it's a little eye rolly, to be honest. But if you're into that kind of stuff, like, he's interesting. And obviously playing into this movie, like, he loves this movie. So.
And I was like, he definitely, I mean, like, I don't know, maybe he did this before he saw this movie, the, high camera angle, but that's like all there is in Enter the Void pretty much. Okay. And I was like, that's what it is. But it's kind of interesting, I think, because it gives you that perspective of you're like just a fly on the wall, basically. Like, you're just observing this from an angle that we really don't get a lot in movies, right? Like, a lot of the time you're like eye level with people or slightly off. This is like, we're just hovering. We're like a ghost watching this guy do for a lot of it. And then some of it is like that, rigged thing where it's like you see his face in the center. But I thought that was really interesting.
Pulls you back and forth a lot in this film. Like, you'll be kind of like you said, a fly on the wall or a specter kind of just rolling along with him.
Or he's giving you a piggyback ride.
Exactly,
throughout the film.
You get, exactly, But then you get pulled right back into his headspace. And another thing I'd like to touch on is after he commits, like, the big murder, the girl, when he kind of, like, goes to the sink and starts, like, cleaning himself off, there's this, like, the actor killed it. I forget his name because I don't know if he's been in much, and it's also Austrian or German or whatever. Just to me killed this role because he, according to some like trivia, he went totally method. Like, obviously he didn't kill anybody, but
he's in prison now for the rest of his life.
Yeah, sorry. But he just kind of went for it. And when he's like cleaning himself off in the sink, just like being a weirdo, you feel that, I feel like you're injected into the headspace of that panic. Like, I haven't been in a whole lot of trouble, but even like simple day-to-day things, like if you're working at your job and you do something kind of like, oops, like I fucked up, like an accident, you kind of have that panic, right? And I feel like he's so off the scale of like an accident to him because he considers it like they're lust kills. He wants to do this out of lust or whatever. And so to him, it's almost like an accident, like a side effect of his brain.
And even when he's like driving too, because like I can admit that if I've been like woke up late and I'm late for work and I'm like trying to get to work, I might drive a little bit erratic. Don't call the cops on me again. But like even with him, like when he's leaving the scene, he's driving psychotic, like almost runs over like a group of kids because he's just not thinking straight. He's like, oh my God, like there's just so many emotions running through. And that's like a realistic feeling too. Like I've definitely felt like panicked where I'm like, oh my God, like don't get behind a wheel if you feel that way. But we've all done it.
That's what I'm saying is like, you just feel that like the panic of he like in the back of his brain, he knows he kind of fucked up with what he did, but also he's so aroused by it, which is so disturbing to me that he's still like acting upon it. But then like Courtney said, when he takes off from the scene with the bodies in the trunk, and the dog, which we haven't talked about the dog yet. Whoa. And he just takes off in this full panic mode. But then it's crazy to me how much he flips as soon as he gets back to that diner. He just goes back into like the excitement of showing them the bodies in the trunk. Like that was his goal. He wanted them to go outside, open the trunk, and for them to see the bodies because that excites him. I'm pretty sure, like, Tawny, I think you said he falls asleep on the girl's body. I also feel like before that when he was like sucking her blood or whatever, he also came. Oh yeah, I'm pretty sure.
Well, because he did when he was taking like the mother's body he
Oh,
did the
yep.
same thing.
Off
Yeah,
the
because he's
wall.
like
Yeah.
wanted to
Yeah.
keep the corpses. As he said, like he just wanted to keep them and like have them. And when he was like taking her body, he definitely did. Yeah, he like
Yeah, I saw that. Oh wow, that part. Well, first, because we're talking about the camera work, and I've been thinking about this movie a lot, and then with what everyone is saying, I think I am loving it more because thinking back on it, it's almost as though we were a part of him, meaning, so you have those wide angles, right? And then it starts us to come in together, and we're hearing him thinking, but we're on the outside watching. And then we're right up in his mouth while he's eating, in their eyes, and that now we are like him, and it starts to tighten and tighten and tighten and tighten into, and then we're only seeing his face as he's running around the house, and it's like we are in there with him, and there's all of this happening. And then with that scene with her, that's what, at first I thought, is he eating her? Is he drinking her blood? Possibly. And then I thought, oh no, he's having sex with her, and he's having this moment with her. And then after, I wasn't sure if he had fallen asleep or he was just relishing in this. So there's this release. Now we have all been released. And now there's just this long sequence of dragging these bodies to get him in the car. And so now we're spectators again, watching this and like, what the fuck just happened to us? What happened to everybody? And then again, as he starts to get these feelings that he wants it again, when he's inside of the diner and we're in his mouth again and we're all there. And so it's almost like, we're just like right a part of him being brought in, then being spectators, then being brought in again.
That's
like
an
a fever
amazing
dream.
observation. I did not even pick up on that. That's great, Felicia.
Yeah. Yes.
Amazing.
But that was the scene that made me, whoa, wait a second.
Yeah.
Oh God, wow. And then those I actually wrote here for him as well. I said, wow, this actor, the energy and the effort that he's putting into this movie. And then as he's dragging the people, I don't know if they're dummies. They are really good looking dummies.
Dude.
If they're real people, then they did a real good job. I felt like I was watching
Oh yeah, like you could
This
feel their
man.
weight
snuff
on you.
film.
Like,
Yes, I think-
dragging them.
a snuff film. Yeah.
Yeah. I think they had to be real people just playing dead
Wow.
because of the weight and the realism. I have never, I mean, like maybe one other time, I mean, this is going to sound fucked up, but I love a good realistic looking dead body.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
oh
Yeah.
my God, this delivered, especially with the
did.
girl. I was like, maybe one other time in my life have I seen what I mean, again, I haven't actually seen a dead body. I mean, okay, I have seen a dead body because I did like a class where we went to the college to look at cadavers, but that's very different because that's like a, body that's been
A controlled environment.
dead for a very long time and embalmed and all of that. So I don't actually know what it looks like when somebody's dead pretty immediately, but the fact that she was like blue. Like just totally like cold and that just really creeped me out in a way that I appreciated a lot. Like, cause I think a lot of times people still look like they're alive and real, they have like, they're pink in the face and whatever. And so that was like next level.
Yeah. How about when he was pulling the mom down the stairs and it looked like she almost was starting to get rigor mortis?
Rigor
Like
mortis? Yes.
Dude.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then that scene when, with the girls, when her throat, I was really trying to think of a way to say this without being disgusting, but oh well. When the blood was coming out,
Squirting,
it was almost like he
Squirting
was
blood.
getting ejaculated in his face, this ecstasy that was happening.
Oh, easy. Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
And I just thought, this is what these serial killers feel. Like they can, you could read something where they're saying, oh yeah, I just really wanted to do it. But this is like, we can see it and we're being pulled into this. And I was wondering in the beginning, when the acting was a little, I felt like this is when I was like, I can't with this movie. Like when he all of a sudden runs in there and he's on the ground and then and the mom is just like looking back and forth and then the girl is just tied up and she's like, oh, just kind of like looking. And I'm like, what is this? This is the part that I was like, oh, I really don't like this until it made that turn. And I went back and watched it. And then I wondered if this is because we're from his point of view. And maybe this is kind of what it was like to him.
Skewed.
Or it was bad acting. I don't know. Like, why was he rolling so much to the kitchen? I don't know. What do you guys think about this beginning part of the movie? But we don't have to go there yet if there's more we want to say and I talk too much.
I feel like I've been the one talking too much. But I do think that, like, there are some odd reactions, you know, but it is weird because the mother is, like, kind of tied to a wheelchair, right? Basically, and then the brother, as he's called or whatever, is handicapped. And I think when it comes to the girl, because there's actually that scene before she escapes, where she kind of starts kissing him back. I think it's almost like she knows the danger that she and her family are in. She's seen what he can do to her family. I think she could hear her brother being murdered upstairs. And so she's kind of like, okay, I'm going to do my best to buy into this and see if I can control the situation to do exactly what she did, which was escape. Yeah. So, yes, like, these are kind of some of the negative aspects of it, that some of the character choices and quote unquote the acting, you could say, are like, what exactly is happening here? But almost that's like the charm of it, is like, you're just sitting there like your jaw's on the floor, like, what the fuck is going on?
Yeah. I totally buy that. I think it was more when she was tied to the door, I didn't feel there was any fear in her face.
And she was
kind of wiggling her arm. And then the mom, not the wheelchair, totally get that. It was right before that when he was, I think it was going to kill the brother, and he was running back and forth, and she watched him leave the room. Then she watched him go over to the window, like that particular.
That bothered me too. I really didn't like this. And I thought to myself, Felicia's not going to like this either, because it's like not a realistic reaction to what's happening. At the very least, you would probably scream, right? Yeah. Like, even if you were so scared that you didn't know what to do and you couldn't move, you would probably be saying something, yelling something.
And panicked,
Maybe a jump scare because this dude just ran out from nowhere, you know?
Yeah. Something. She's just standing there. She's just waiting to get tied up. And I'm like, aren't you gonna do something? Like, sure. And I agree. Her getting tied up to the door, the younger sister, she also, was just like, I guess I'm tied to a door now. It's like, again, I'd be screaming.
And I guess this is happening.
This is later in the movie, but somebody like calls. I didn't pick up on immediately that it was a phone. I thought it was like somebody ringing the doorbell, and so I'd be screaming. And I think even if I lived in that house and I knew that was the phone, I think I'd still be screaming, just because, I don't know, that's the only thing that you can do. If you can't physically do anything, you're going to make
alert
sound.
Someone.
Yeah. Okay. So these things bothered me because I was just like, they don't feel real.
I do have one counterpoint to all that, though, is...
Do it.
To me, like, I think that's why the dog is such an influential character in the film, is because if you notice, the dog goes back and forth between, like, playing with him almost, but also like when he's killing the girl, he's straight up attacking him. Like, the dog is on his arm flinging around. I'm like, poor dog, Jesus Christ. But I think that kind of like, I understand what you guys are saying, that like if someone broke into my home right now, I think I'd be more in shock, to be honest. Like, for real. I've been in very strange situations where it's like, what the fuck is happening, more so than scream at the top of my lungs for some reason. You kind of freeze. Yeah. And I'm not trying to, because I do agree.
Would you have fear in your eyes, though?
I don't know. Maybe. I mean, I don't know.
It's hard to say.
You look right now.
Yeah.
Right now.
It's like, he's like, all right, well, this is happening.
Jolly Jensen, Mr. Teddy Bear Jensen, just being like, hi.
It's like you've never experienced it, you know?
Right.
Because everybody takes things a different way. Like, I don't know how, like, I would take it either. I'm like a very paranoid person in general. So like, I'm always like, especially driving home from work, I'm like looking at my rearview mirror. I'm like, is someone following me home?
Right.
But
dude, someone rings the doorbell and we're like, who the fuck is that?
I don't answer phone calls of people I don't know. I like wait for the phone to ring. I'm like, leave a voicemail if you need me, because I'm not answering the phone. Or like some random person parks like across the street from your house and you're like looking out the blinds, like, who the hell is this? Are they going to break into my house? Yeah. But it is, I don't even know what I would do if someone broke into my house.
I hear that, and I think it's a valid point. However, to have two people in the situation act this way, I think was too much. And Like if one person had been doing that, I would have been okay, maybe, you know, but there is many different layers. There's fight, flight, freeze, and Jade actually in one of his like courses just learned about like there's a new one. I don't remember the actual word, but I think it's like placate. Like you start to just like placate somebody when you feel like scared or threatened, and that's a little bit more like low level, like when you're in just like a one-on-one situation or you feel like threatened by somebody not in this situation. I'm definitely a freezer. I definitely freeze, but I will also scream. So like I don't know, just something
Is bored
else.
one of them? Because I think the girl on the door looked bored. That was the thing.
She did look bored.
But then there was a moment, you know, then though I will say, like after she was saying, you know, my mom's medication and things like that, she did definitely increase in like her fear and all of that sort of a thing. So you guys look unamused. I hope you don't hate us.
No, not at all.
Yeah,
Okay,
no,
good.
I have the like if when I'm listening to someone intently and like taking in everything they're saying, like my face will be like completely just
I love it.
Yes. But
I was
no,
just
I do.
joking.
I completely get where you're coming from.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. Because like I felt like that way too. Because she's just like tied up. And like myself, like I feel like in situations I've been in, like I'm definitely a flight person. Like I will run until I can't run anymore. Like I'm not. Like, I guess, like, depending, like, I might freeze a little bit, but I'm just going. Like, I am running as fast as I possibly can. I'm not looking back. But.
Right.
Yeah.
And there's also the possibility that she thought maybe, because the daughter is the sound mind one, right? Because, like.
She's like the caretaker, kind of.
Right. You get that vibe. So maybe she thought, like, this is just a burglary. And maybe he's also in a fucking panic too, running around the house like a madman.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
maybe
it's
she's
confusing.
maybe maybe she's thinking he's going to tie me up, maybe rob us and get the fuck out of here. Like I said, again, this could be probably disputed all night, honestly, back and forth. So I'm just throwing it out there, trying to throw out some counterpoints because I personally am a freezer. Like I'll tell the very condensed version of the story. One night, my wife and I were driving on a very dark road. We witnessed a rollover accident. And when I pulled up to help or call 911 or whatever, the person jumped out of the vehicle and got in the backseat of our car and said, "Hey, can you drive down the road? Because my grandma flew out of the window." So what is your reaction? I go, okay. So I go, I put the car in drive and I drive down the street. And he tells us, keep driving to where we're in a basically different city. I completely froze. Except for the driving
told me
portion.
That story.
I've told it on a podcast, my dude. What? I think I told it on Lauren's podcast. Yeah. That was the very short version.
Holy
but yeah,
shit.
so like I'm a whole ass freezer. Like I didn't scream. I just was like, hi, or whatever. Like I'm Jensen, you know, I don't know what I did, but so not trying to totally discredit that. Cause she does act a little like I'm painting my nails right now. What are you doing in my house? You know? So yeah, she's got that vibe of what are you doing? But,
Okay. We really need to know the end of this story.
Yeah. What?
Oh, okay, yeah. Sorry. Keep you on the line, yeah. No, I just eventually it kind of clicked. I drove maybe 10 blocks and ended up at a parking lot at a library, and I was like, "You got to get out of the vehicle, dude. I'm sorry." And he hopped out and just ran. So
wow.
Yeah. No idea what happened to him.
That's so weird. Because I have like a kind of similar-ish story in a way. Because I was driving home one night and it was very late. And I was on like South Broadway, like going towards my apartment. And there's this massive just crash. And like there's a motorcycle crash. There's like a car just like totaled. And there's cops. And I'm like kind of mesmerized by the lights. And I'm like, my eyes are just going back and forth. I'm like, what the fuck is going on? Is there like a body on the ground? And as I'm just staring at everything, I just see like someone's silhouette come out of the lights and like towards my car window. And like, there's just this guy, very young guy. He's probably like in his early 20s, maybe 18 or 19. And I like roll my window down and like he had been in the accident and he's like, someone stole my necklace and I just need you to drive me somewhere. Like I need, like you just to drive me somewhere. And I'm like, and I like kind of was panicking because I'm like, I feel really bad for you. But like, I don't want you in my car. Cause like I've seen so many movies. I've like listened to so many podcasts, and like, I have so much empathy, but I don't want to like get myself killed. So I'm like, just kind of watching him. I'm like, there's cops right there. Like if you need help, like cops are literally right there. Like I can call the cops for you. But like, you're not getting in my car. And so he just keeps like asking me. He's like pulling on my door handle, and I just like speed off. I'm like, I'm fucking out of here. Like I left.
Damn.
But like, I always think to myself, like, what if I would have been like, sure, like, yeah, I'll help you. I'll drive you where you need to go. Get my car. Cause like you hear so many of those stories. Could have been fine. Could not been fine. Cause in my youth, like I did give people rides that like asked me at like the gas station and stuff. And I look back at that now and I'm like, why did I ever do that?
Courtney,
I was so naive. I get it. But you kind of understand. Like you kind of just feel helpless there. Cause like the gas station attendant's like, oh, will you take them home? And I'm like, yeah.
What the fuck?
I guess.
Yeah, why somebody else is involved in this?
So like it just
Seriously.
feels like, I don't know, like you feel kind of put on the spot. So I have done that before. I'm not proud of it, but now like I never would do that again, ever.
Right.
Yeah, you gotta just leave the situation because like you're putting yourself in harm's way pretty much, especially as a woman.
Yeah,
as sad as it is, like.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. Yeah, that's kind of where we were at. We were just like, are we gonna get held up at gunpoint and get our car stolen? We are not sure. So I just had to be like, yo, you gotta get out. I don't know what you're doing, man. We suspect he was probably a drunk driver.
Yeah.
And flipped the and didn't want to get caught. And so we took him. Yeah. Nah, not great. And how else can he react? I was like,
it's hard.
He's like, he literally runs to our car. My wife was so freaked out.
I
She
can
was like,
imagine.
Yes.
what the fuck? Yeah. So.
Because you're kind of like the protector in that situation. Because like she looks at you as like someone to protect her, but then in the same sense, like you're terrified because you're like, what the fuck? Like this person could have a weapon. This person could like anything could happen.
But you feel bad. The societal pressure, I think is a very interesting thing. And like when you see it in movies and stuff, like I really like it because it feels, it's so real because there are things that you would do.
Because you know that feeling like in your gut.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we've all done things that
Right.
we look back at now and we're like, wow, that was a fucking bad idea. I can't believe I did that. But you feel like the pressure. I want to help somebody. I don't want to be an asshole. I don't want somebody to feel bad because of what I've done.
Yes.
You know? Right.
So, you guys, I've talked about this on one of the episodes before, but there is a book called The Gift of Fear, and it was written by an FBI agent who got, I think he was FBI or CIA or whatever. He was like a detective. And anyways, he interviewed predators. And so they told him what they look for and what they do. It's like a full-time job for them. And one of the things was all of that, what we're talking about here, preying on our natural weird feelings of not wanting to offend somebody. And they use that. And the guy was saying, I forgot his name, but in the book, he was like, who cares? Even if this person is not bad, and you make them feel like, get away from me, they're going to be like, wow, bitch. Oh, well. It's like, who cares?
And it's
because
like a stranger,
that's what they
too.
prey on. Yeah, that's what they prey on.
And it sucks because like we all have that empathy. And like I like helping people. And like I don't want people to feel stranded or like to feel helpless. Like if I can help them, like I want to. But also it's like, this is a stranger. I don't know where they've come from. I don't know what their plans are. Like, they could take me away from like my life and like the people that care about me and like my family. My cats won't have like their mom to come home to. So
I think of that when I see people like in movies and stuff are running up to the door screaming, please let me in, let me in, right?
I'm like, what would I do?
Like, is it going to be like The Strangers where there's a whole lot of them and I'm done?
Or like there's
am I helping this person?
Like
it's a
hired
girl. She
by
needs
these people or whatever. Like
in
with like a bad group of dudes, and they're like,
yes,
go try to get these people to let you into their house, and they come and they rob you and they kill you or whatever. So it's
or
hard.
This person last hope.
Yeah, because like
so,
you want to
get
help
away.
the woman, especially. You're like, oh my god, the poor girl is like being chased. But then also you're like, you have no idea, because there's so much fucked up stuff in the world. There's so much fucked up people that like you really can't trust anybody that you don't know.
Yeah.
It sucks.
I will say something about this movie that I really like, and we haven't talked about yet, how they took elements of the true crime, and I thought they weaved it in very nicely with this movie. And I was thinking that because of what you mentioned, Jensen, about the dog, and how in the real story he was going to first attack people. He had a different target, but he didn't because of their dog, I believe. And so he didn't, because the dog was barking stuff. So then he went, and that's where he found this other family, which is the family we see in the movie. But the dog is like incorporated as a part of this movie, and I loved that dog. So things like that. And there was one other thing that I totally forgot, but Tawny, you might know that it was a part of the real crime, but it was like a little bit, it was just a little bit different, but how they incorporated it in, I just thought they did a really good job. So reading through that true crime, the actual thing that happened, it was very, very, very close.
I was going to say,
close.
it's almost exact. It's and I have notes about the actual story, but I don't even know if we need to get into them because it is basic. They changed just a couple of minor details, like at the very end, he goes back to the same cafe, whereas in the real story, he goes to a restaurant and has all this like money because they tried to pay him because they thought it was a robbery. And they're like, this is weird, right? Yeah. Like people in the restaurant, and he had gloves on the whole time while he was eating, which he did in the movie.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, the phone call. The phone call in the true crime. Sorry, Tawny. The thing I was going to say popped into my head. In the true crime, the girl's boyfriend called, and he had her talk to her boyfriend and say she was busy.
Yeah.
But sorry, go ahead, Tawny. I got excited because I remembered.
No worries.
No, that's super disturbing. Yeah.
Yeah. Have you guys done any research on the real story? Yeah.
I actually did recently because I, like the first time I watched the movie, of course, I'm like, this just feels very real. And then as I did like more research on the movie, it was like loosely, which it was a lot more than loosely based off of like true events. And then like you do look into it and you read about it, like the killer and stuff. Cause I am like huge with true crime. Like I am listening to true crime podcasts every day, like learning about all this stuff. So that's just something that fascinates me, as fucked up as it is. Like I will go to bed listening to true crime podcasts.
Hey, and you're my long lost sister because I'm the same.
Cause I don't know why, like part of it, as like morbid as it sounds, is kind of comforting. But I hadn't heard about this one. And then after like I started reading about it, I like started listening to stuff about it. Just because I enjoy this movie, as you know. And it's fucked up.
Do you mean comforting? I just want to say, because I have thought about because I will watch a lot of true crime and I'll need a break because I will start to feel pretty bummed, and then I dive right back into it and binge it. Like I should where have you been? And then I pull away. But it's been my whole entire life that I've been into that. I remember even teenager being curious, and I know one aspect of it was definitely I felt if I knew these stories, then I wouldn't make those mistakes. It was almost comforting in a way that I felt like I knew more than what these people knew at the time. And that's gives me a leg up. Yeah.
Which is kind of sad because like, yes, but also no. Because there's so many, like every crime is different. And like, it's people you know, it's people you love, or it's people you've never met. It's just you're a target or you're a random person. But then it also could be like somebody that's so close to you that you see every day. It could be your partner, it could be your mom, your dad. So you never know. Like you could be so seasoned on everything. Like, oh, I'm not going to go hitchhiking. I'm not going to go here. I'm not going to go here because like this could happen to me. But then also you could just be like living your normal life, like in your home. And
going
like,
to the store.
Yeah. Anything can happen to you. Like it's very sad. And we had a friend on one of our podcasts recently. We were talking about the movie. Why can't I think of it, Jensen? Alone. Yeah. And like her and I had like almost an identical situation happen to us at the grocery store of us being like followed home. And it's just sad because like you really have to be like your guards have to be up everywhere you go.
All the time.
Because you never know. Yeah. And it
Yeah.
sucks. Like just existing in the world. Like you have to be like on high alert. And if you go in public or at night, especially, like I am afraid walking through like empty parking lots.
Yeah.
Or like if I have to stay late at work and like I'm walking through the parking lot to my car, like you have to be like looking over your shoulder at all times.
Yeah, I pretty much am sleepless because I have a teenage daughter that drives. I have one that is away at college, and I hope I've traumatized them enough that they
My
would be
dad
very,
definitely
very
did
diligent.
for me. Oh
Yeah.
my God, my dad did. Yeah.
I hope, but yeah, I completely agree with you.
Yeah.
It's terrifying.
It's sad.
Yeah. I'm feeling
We're all
defeated
just
over here.
pondering
Yeah.
now.
Yeah. Very sad. But what I will say again is something that I like about this movie in relation to the true story is how just immediate and straightforward and no breaks it is. Like this guy, the real guy, got out of jail, went and did this exact same thing.
Yeah.
Like took a taxi, went to a house, the dog was there, went to a second house, did all this to these people. Same thing.
Yeah.
Strangled them all, tortured them all, put their bodies in the trunk and like took off. Like that is what he did. And then he was caught. And all of that happened in like 24, 48 hours or something, I think. Like it happened so fast.
Yeah.
And so I like that it is portrayed that way in the movie because it's so close to reality. And it again makes you think, yeah, this is what people do. On a positive note that maybe I can make us feel a little bit better here.
The mood.
Yeah, boost up the serotonin levels.
Right. As a result of this exact real case, a 9-person workforce was created to identify criminals who needed to be admitted to institutions for the mentally unstable even after their judicial sentence was complete. So because this guy was sentenced in like 1973, I think, in 1975, they instituted this where it was like after you were done with your sentence, if you were, one of these people that they probably deemed to be unfit to go back into society, you'd go into an institution for the mentally unstable. But they could not apply it retroactively. So had he been sentenced 2 years later, he would have fallen into this. But because he didn't and went and committed this, horrendous crime, they actually put together a task force to be able to help, bridge that gap for other people who weren't.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
at least there was something that came out of this to help,
Yeah.
stop this from happening
Unsuspecting
again.
victims.
Yeah.
That is
Because it
good.
is sad. Like there's been a lot of like people that have committed horrible crimes. They get out of prison and then they go and commit more crimes.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like they were already in prison and then now like more innocent people are dead. Why? Like just keep them there. But
Yeah.
Nobody cares about the children. Like things happen to children and then they're like, oh yeah, here you go, you get some 5 years. How about
like in juvie?
forever?
Yes.
Because, no, not, but yes, but I mean grown-ups that do things to children
got it.
get like the lightest sentences. And I think it should be totally flipped.
Oh, yeah.
Because if you could do that to a child, that is some sickness there,
like the most innocent people that can fight for themselves, like nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then they like go to jail, prison, whatever, for 5 years, 3 years, some of them even like months, and then they get out and then they do even worse. They like kill a child or like whatever. I don't want to get into like any nitty gritties, but like they should have gotten way more strict sentence because like people who get caught for like weed, for instance, have stricter sentences than like
than hurting a
child
child.
Yes. Yeah. Ridiculous.
I went in, I have done this before. I go on this binge of true crime and then I go out, my husband and my older daughters. I'm like, look, guys, if you want a divorce or you want to date someone I don't like, whatever it is, just go do it if you're going to kill me.
Yes.
Okay? It's totally cool. Let's go.
Please. I'd rather keep my life than you date a douchebag. Yeah.
The only other note that I had on like the true crime aspect that I thought might be of note is I found this on IMDb trivia, which I'm not. Sometimes we read shit on this that I'm like, where are people getting this? Is this fucking real? I don't know.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Because they
so
can just
this-
edit anything they want.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I'm like, where did you find this? I went to the Wikipedia page for this movie and for the guy that it was really based on, the main one that we just talked about.
Yeah.
And I went and tried to read all of the sources. I got errors on all of the ones I clicked on.
Oh my gosh.
So I'm like, I can't verify anything about this. Really, I can't read any more about him. I don't know. But this other one, it said the narration quotes confessions of real life killers like Peter Curtin, known as the Vampire of Dusseldorf. So I read a bunch about this guy, and he did literally nothing to make him seem like a vampire at all, which is, I know this is like very blasé of me to say maybe, but I'm like, how are you going to put the name vampire on? If you're not drinking somebody's blood.
Yeah,
Exactly.
that's like
I
the key
just-
thing you
That
need to
is.
be doing.
Yeah. It's like
I
the only
feel-
thing.
Journalism.
Yeah.
And maybe it's a little overblown. This guy was obviously terrible and killed like a fuck ton of people, and it was awful, awful. And he also was like, showed no remorse for his crimes. But I was like, I can't really see. The only thing that I feel like maybe they pulled in is him trying to drink her blood. But again, I'm like, this guy didn't actually do that. And I was like, somebody make this shit up. Anyway.
Yeah,
They
that's
probably
journalism
did.
for
Yeah.
you, for sure.
They just want to get someone's attention.
They want the headline,
Yeah.
for sure. That's why, like, when something happens where there's, like, a dead body and it could be a homicide, they don't want journalists there because they're just going to fucking
Spew some
make
bullshit.
their assumptions, just get the gossip, you know? Yeah, it
Yeah.
sucks.
Salacious. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And that's kind of like,
Bullshit.
I didn't really answer about the true crime just because, like, personally, I do like some of it. I'm more in the case of, like, when I listen to too much of it, it starts fucking with my head too much.
Yeah.
Like you said, Felicia, but I don't know. Sometimes, like, some of it's so depressing, especially when it's like an unsolved case about a little boy. I'm like, come on, dude, could you get any more sad?
Yeah.
Like, stop. So, and I know it's like important to learn about, but at the same time, I'd rather just watch a horror film.
I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know if it's as important to learn as much about it as, like, say, Courtney and I do. You know?
I know. It's just like, it just kind of becomes second nature a little bit and like background noise. Because like I'm cleaning. I'm like, you know what? I got to put something on. I put that on. And like, it kind of just like keeps you company a little bit when you're driving to work. Because it's like another person there like talking.
Yeah.
But I'm like, I could easily be listening to like a positive like self-help book or something, but I don't know. It just sparks my interest. I'm like, oh my God, like what happened to this person?
I think it's that curiosity of
It is
because I
morbid
love
curiosity.
also like psychological horror because
me too.
losing your mind terrifies me. So I really love that and gotten really into interrogations and like, oh, can I see if they're lying and just
That makes
that
sense.
intriguing, you know, just that aspect of losing your mind.
Because even with like the interrogations and like the true crime where like the like perpetrator gets interrogated by the police for like 20 hours and then they crack. I'm like, what like makes them like get to that point finally where they're like, I am fucking done. Like, I'm just going to say I did it. And like, I'm going to like go to prison for the rest of my life so I don't have to deal with this anymore.
And there's kind of a joy too, where, and this is the last thing I'll say, because I know Jensen just said he does not like true crime that much, where I'm watching it and they're going on and on the story, and then the person's like, "No, I didn't do it," and they're like, "Yes, you did," and I flip off the screen like, "Yeah, you thought you'd get away with it, punk, but you're going away." There's that satisfaction.
And it is the satisfaction too, because you're like, you know, in the beginning of the story, that person did it. And you're like, I just want to like get to that part where they're caught, they get their sentence, and you're like, hell yeah, that person is in prison for the rest of their life. Like,
satisfying.
Fuck off. Yeah.
Satisfying.
That's
really
interesting.
is.
I am satisfied by that, but I think I'm more interested in the opposite. I think it's
The mystery.
I think it's fascinating when people confess to something that they didn't do because of the pressure.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
And like, you know, going back and looking at the breadcrumbs of like, they didn't know, they were just saying things that were fed to them, you know, by people who like really want to get the bad guy and really believe
It's really sad.
Yeah, like that fascinates me because I'm like, this person didn't do it, but like you have these people with like good intent, like they want to get the person and they believe they have them and they just need them to confess, and so they like walk them down this trail confessing when they didn't do it. Like, I'm like, that fucking fascinating.
And there's
Have
been
you
so
seen
many
the confession tapes? There's a show all about that.
Maybe. That sounds familiar.
There's a series of all these different real confessions that the people didn't do it.
It's so sad. Like people who went to prison for
terrible.
years and years and years, and then finally, like the real person gets caught, like 20 years later, and like the innocent person was locked up for so long. It's so sad. Like you lost so much of your life.
It's terrible on the other end of the spectrum. Yeah, it's like,
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, to me, it's a lot of, and I'm not trying to get political because these are definitely my opinions, listener. I'm talking to your listeners because it's like we on the Fright Crew have our own opinions, but we don't like cops much. So to me, it's a lot of like cops saying,
because they want to be the good guys.
Case.
They
want
want
to
to
solve
like,
this case to get our reputation stars up.
Exactly.
And then they just close it because they say we got the killer and hey, clap for us. Look at us. We're so so.
And then it turns out they were wrong and they're like, oh well.
And then they never reopen
still lived my life in freedom. So
because I did say like I don't like it that much, but I still do because I listen to so many podcasts anyway that I do. I listen to Mile Higher. Shout out to them. And they do typically always like unsolved cases and stuff. Mm-hmm. So a lot
those
of
ones are the ones that like fuck with me.
Yeah. Because it's just like, what the hell? And
really
there's
sad.
So many cases that they've covered that it was like literally a cop that did the murder and like they killed their wife and they just, the whole department was like, yeah, cool.
Because they get away with stuff.
They'll cover it up for them and stuff. And, we don't have to go on this wild tangent, but actually I was going to pull back to the movie itself.
7 hours later.
We could go off. Yeah. I want to hear your guys' opinions because I've always struggled with this since I got into true crime at all was nature versus nurture. I think that's a really great thing to talk about because growing up in my early 20s, I definitely was always like, oh, it's nurture 100%. I was like, it's nurture all the way. But then you start to notice things like this case. I mean, yes, I think there's a split because I used to be like, no. It's pretty much always nurture. It's how you're brought up. Mm-hmm. There's no nature in killing someone. But when you look at a movie like this this serial killer that is based off of, that's like part nature. It has to be. So that's my opinion, but I want to hear all yours. So
I definitely feel like it is a bit of both, but there's definitely a nature aspect to it that has to be there. And I'm not a psychologist. The only reason I say that is because when I hear, there's always with these, serial killer stories, or even with this one, I was sexually abused. Well, so was I as a child. I was raped and molested as a child. It really messed me up for many years in depression and suicidal ideation, that sort of thing, but never, ever wanted to hurt animals, never wanted to, you know what I mean? And then you hear stories way worse than mine, where children are very, very horrifically abused, and they also aren't murdering people. So, but on the flip side, you don't hear of a lot of stories where people who became serial killers had wonderful lives. Supposedly Ted Bundy had a great childhood, but usually there's something there in those aspects. And I always hate too where they're like, oh, they had hold on, it is oh gosh, what do they always say about killers? They had
like a brain
injury? something personality disorder.
Oh,
borderline?
BPD. Yeah.
Borderline personality disorder. I was diagnosed with that because of what I had gone through and how it manifested within me. And again, never wanted to hurt anybody. So I think there has to be something in the nature that then when this stuff happens, it aggravates it on a gross mass scale. That's my opinion, but I'm only saying that because of my personal experience, and I don't know. I'm not a psychologist.
Right. No, that takes a lot of guts to even bring that up.
Yeah,
so
it really does.
Thank you for that.
I know. I'm like getting emotional a little bit.
Yeah.
Sorry, and I'm not to.
No, it's okay because I've gone through some awful shit too. Like I completely understand where you're coming from. And I think it's also just the way that like people take that and like what they give back out to the world. Cause like people could take it and be like, oh, I'm the victim. Like I'm gonna be destructive and I'm going to destroy everything around me. Or they could take it as like, this happened to me and I'm going to make sure it doesn't happen to anybody else. Like for yourself, like your kids, make sure your kids don't have to deal with anything like that going forward. I know like with myself, like if I ever become a parent, like I will make sure they never go through anything like even remotely close to what I've gone through. Again, can't protect them forever. Like the world is shitty. But like we can do our best to like teach them to be strong, teach them to like take things in stride and not
to tell you don't
exactly. Yes, definitely be open. Cause it is scary. Like, yeah, especially like just being afraid to like even speak about it and people keep it in. But I feel like the more you talk about it, like the more real it feels. And then you don't have to like self-destruct. Yeah.
Yeah, I had a boyfriend in high school. He was really physically abusive, but his dad beat him up. And so then he now, you know,
and see, like
went
that's
out to the world.
what you have to stop it like at that. Like don't keep it going. Like that's with like people with like alcoholic parents who grew up in that and like they can stop it there and not like keep the narrative going and like their own families and their own relationships. But it is hard. And that's why therapy is so important. It's very, very important. But yeah.
I mean, what if you have that little bit of nature inside of you, but you're brought up, you know, in a really loving and happy home? I don't know. Does that still?
Yeah. Does it negate?
Yeah. Does it negate? Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. That's what makes me think I would say both also. Like, you could probably have the best upbringing in the world, but, you know, there are just things that happen, you know, and like people are born with chemical imbalances in the brain.
Oh, yeah.
And that just, you know, it's no fault to anybody. That just is what it is. And can you nurture your way out of that? Probably not every time, you know, maybe some of the time, maybe all the time. I don't know. So that's why I feel like it's both.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I do like this movie, how at the very end, it really is brought together by that VO that says, like, yes, this person is 100% responsible. But to apply common sense in this case, it maybe doesn't, I don't remember the exact language, but it was something like, it maybe doesn't apply because of the upbringing that this person had.
Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of a crazy note to end on for sure, is the whole nature versus nurture thing, because it's just... That's kind of what they end on with the film itself, too. So
yeah. I will say this is one of the only movies, and I had to take a note on this. Again, I'm going back to the true crime a little bit. This is one of the only movies I've seen where the dog doesn't die.
Right?
Yes. I thought I was going to kill this little mirror dog.
Please don't die.
Brought him the rest of his sausage. He was like kind to the dog.
They were best buds.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm just so glad that he didn't kill that freaking dog.
Yep.
Me too.
Crucial character that dog was.
Agreed. I love that little dog.
Yeah.
Do you have any other trivia, Jensen, that you want to...
I mean, I do know a little insight as to like just a little longer winded version of why Gerald Kargl, like why his whole reputation was kind of ruined was because...
Please tell me.
I mean, it was just the simple fact that this was added to kind of like the European video nasties. So like there's the British video nasties, but there was also like a European one later on. And it was kind of added to that list or whatever, I think. And it was, I think, his debut technically. And because it was based on a real serial killer, there were just so many people up in arms that it's not okay to do that. So close to home, so close to the story, and basically that was the controversy. And it just kind of stuck with his career. He couldn't find any more jobs because of it. So, I mean, it kind of boils down to that simple fact. I mean, it's happened before, you know, where directors have gone almost like too hard into the paint, you know, they go too hard with the art of it and it kind of ruins their career. I'm trying to think of like other famous directors who have only had like, one big one is Harvey, Carnival of Souls. Like that was his only film.
I was just about to say that one too.
Yeah, that's like another one that comes to mind. And that one wasn't because of controversy or anything. It was just the simple fact that at the time it was a little too obscure for people in the 60s to consume. But as soon as the 80s came around and people caught wind of it and started to consume it in a regular manner, that's when it like blew up, unfortunately, after he passed away. So it's kind of that similar thing of just, people were not into it and he couldn't get any more work, and I don't know, like you said, Tawny, I don't know the budget of this or how it was funded or produced or anything, but I would assume it's pretty hard to even make anything remotely close to what he did with this with no budget or no backers, no producers, anything. So he just kind of got left in the sand.
It is unfortunate, though, because the cinematographer, I'm not going to try to say his name because it looks impossible to pronounce.
I read it and I was like, oh, I'm not even going to attempt.
That's a no. That's a no from me. He kept working. Like he seemed to do okay after this, so it's like, that sucks that this guy was good to go. But I hear what you're saying, Jensen, and I think that makes total sense. Mm-hmm. It's a little too close to home, and it is so close to the real story that it feels like you are exploiting this story and these victims and these people that actually experience this.
Right.
Like, fuck you. I could totally see how you would feel that way as a, member of that country, even just what are you doing?
I mean, it's funny you say that because that actually kind of happened here. Courtney, I don't know if you remember. Well, so we had that, I'm not going to say his name or anything, but the shooter that shot up the theater in Aurora here in Colorado at the Dark Knight or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
It was kind of like a few years later, they made a movie based on it. And
did they really? I didn't even know that.
I didn't either.
Very loosely, though. And people, even though it was that loose, people still were like, nah. And so I don't know if that director's ever worked again because it's just like, why? It's the exploitation, Why are we
And it's
doing
horrific
this?
just hearing, because I was reading a Reddit thread where a victim of that shooting, she wrote this whole thing about what happened to her because her boyfriend ended up dying, and she just saw all of this stuff, and you kind of hear firsthand what it was like to be there, and present in it, and it is gut wrenching. And then for someone to take that experience that so many people lost loved ones and had to it ruined their lives pretty much, and make a movie and oh, we'll make money off of it, off of these people's misfortune and horrors, just because people are fascinated by it. It's very sad.
That really frames it up differently because it's easy to look at something made in the 80s so long ago and say what's the problem,
Right.
But when I think about it like that, because that was the theater we used to go to. Okay. And I didn't go to see a movie for I think 2 to 3 years.
And still in the back of your brain now, I do. I will go to midnight showings of certain movies. I went to the midnight showing of the new Scream. I went to the midnight showing of the new Halloween. I do enjoy seeing movies on the opening nights, especially horror movies. And I'll be watching the movie and then my brain will go to, oh my God, what if this happened?
Yes.
And then I'm those people were so unsuspecting, and it's so sad that they were excited to see a movie that been waiting about to see with their boyfriend or their kids or whatever, and then that happens.
Mm-hmm. I also read,
how do you come back from that?
Yes, I also read detailed reports, so I feel I was put in the situation in a way. Obviously I'm not trying to say that downplay that by any means, but you read it and you feel this is what it would be like to be there, and that is fucking terrifying. And I still, when people get up and move around in a movie, I watched
that. Just happened to me this last weekend too, because me and my boyfriend, we went and saw that new A24 film, Bodies, Bodies, Bodies.
Yeah.
And this couple sat next to us, and she got up and left. And he stayed there, and 30 minutes passed and she didn't come back. And he's shifting, and he's gets up and he leaves, but then he comes back and sits down, and I'm just kind of frozen, like watching him. I'm like, where the fuck did she go? Like, where did he
what
go
are
just
you
now? Why
doing?
is he back? And so like that's just a fear in my brain. And like it's a fear like going to a festival or going to a concert or going to whatever, like
dropping your kids off at school every single day.
I'm sure.
Every day.
Yeah. Terrifying.
Yeah.
And so then to take that thing that you have been affected by and make that into a so close to home movie, it's not even like you're taking a theme and putting it into your movie. It's like, this is exactly what happened. I totally get how this would be rejected by...
It's not even like an original idea. They're like, we're just going to take like a real life thing and just make a movie, make money.
It's like them making like a movie off like the Jessica Ridgway murder that happened about 10 years ago. Like shit like that. Or like the Watts case that happened out here in Florida. Like things like that. Like a documentary or a docuseries on Netflix is one thing because they're just trying to uncover the truth or whatever.
And they have like real clips of like real people that were affected by it, not like actors being paid to play a character that actually went through it.
Exactly.
Yeah. I was wondering, I saw a movie called So I agree with everything you're saying. And I remember that was really heightened, that type of feeling as well after 9/11 and anything that had to, do with that. Yeah. And then years later, I saw a movie called Elephant. And so I don't know if you've seen that, but it's about a school shooting and it loosely based, but definitely around the Columbine shootings. Yeah. But the movie, I thought, I don't know, it was very, it was an indie film and it was almost like a documentary, but not. And I thought it was an excellently done showing all of, just giving just the characters themselves. And I think they were like, not famous actors at all. I mean, I had never seen these kids. They probably maybe in something. Yeah. And it was just like this realistic kind of giving you this, this feeling of what these poor, with all of these poor people that were at the school went through and how it could have been stopped, but how, and so seeing it in that way, but it was a movie. It wasn't a documentary. Mm-hmm. I just wanted to bring that because when I was watching, I was like, wow, this is really beautifully made. But I never even thought that maybe other people are like, oh, this is horrible.
Yeah, because I think if it's done like in a tasteful way.
Yeah.
Right.
It's
and
not
this,
like,
if you think about it, is not at all.
Yeah.
This is disturbing, disgusting.
Yeah, this is.
Yeah.
Do you want to feel what it was like to be the person who murdered these people?
Right.
Yeah.
Which again, several years later removed and watching it from a different country is a different experience, right?
For 100%. Yeah, I get that. Yeah.
And I think that's why it has such a like kind of that cult following and like it's definitely a hidden thing that people are like, that's why it's so disturbing to a lot of people is because I think we just unlocked the case, like I didn't even think about that really, that Gerald Kargl is kind of a scumbag. If you think about it, like I can't even imagine if they did that to a family member of mine. Like if I had a family, like part of my family just fucking slaughtered and then 10 years later, not even.
Someone's like banking off of your tragedy.
And it's
to
so
be an artistic,
visceral and oh yeah. And it just having that and knowing that was your family member. Yeah.
In the same country. Like it's not a huge country. Like,
you know what? Fuck that guy.
Yeah. Movie half star.
With that, I think I'm ready. So why don't we kick it off with Courtney? What are you going to rate this movie?
Okay, so I do have to drop it from what it was just after the discussion, as you guys know. So I'm going to say a 3 out of 5, which is just pretty standard for me. Like if I don't, because I do very much enjoy this movie for a lot of aspects, as we said, like the filming styles, just like the uniqueness of it. Like you're not going to see a lot of films like this especially now. And I feel like it was ahead of its time for what it is. But of course, after talking about everything, like my heart is quite heavy. So I do have to drop it down to a 3 because before I was kind of like leaning on like a 3.5. But yeah, I think I'm gonna go with 3.
Jensen, do you want to go next?
Yeah, sure. I surprisingly, when I said that I was going to actually make it go a little higher, I was talking more of a 4.5 out of 5. This super disturbs me. I'm going to go back down to my original rating, which is just a 4 out of 5. Still, I think it has a lot of artistic value, and it feels scummy of me to say that now that we've kind of revealed.
It doesn't, though. I wouldn't.
It just
like
feels
there's
uncomfortable.
so many movies.
There's
so many movies though that like do the same thing, if not worse. And like this movie we've talked about, like we've known this movie. And like we didn't put that much thought into it. So I would just take it as like just from a watcher's perspective and not like as much of the empathy part, because it is hard.
Yeah. And I think kind of like what you said, Tawny, it's so like this is what happens, right? And that's ultimately like as horror people, we try to find the horror in the dark places like you guys are trying to do in September. So it's kind of fits that tag, that role of I'm just super disturbed and gross out. And then when it comes to the actual, like, even if this was based off of not anything, the filmmaking itself is way too interesting to just pass over. So just with the camera work and everything, like, I do, just like a lot of us podcasters, I hear it a lot. I do aspire to kind of make my own film someday. I think my film would have a lot of touches from this, it would just have those kind of inspirations of odd camera work and stuff. So it's just too much to, when it comes to the artistic aspect, it's too much to pass over. So 4 out of 5.
All right. Nice. Okay. For me, I'm going to give this a 3.5 out of 5. And that's good. For me, there's a lot of movies that I loved that was 3.5. And because of, I can't stop thinking about it, removing the director out of just the movie itself. Yeah. The one main actor, which is who we're with the whole time, did a phenomenal job. Mm-hmm. I think what brings it down a little for me, it would have been a lot higher. Honestly, I'm still on that. The acting in the beginning of the family throws me, and I don't like being taken out of the experience. And I feel like it really threw me. And then but there's a lot to just the filmmaking. Okay. Anyone out there, don't be mad that I say this, but there's a lot to respect in this movie about like how it was filmed and the acting and that whole thing with like bringing us in and we're just in this, horrific experience. And so, I mean, the way I feel about that says a lot. The way it affected us says a lot about this movie and how it was acted and how it was made. So yeah, 3.5 for me.
I'm also going to give this a 3.5. I wavered a lot because I was like 3.5, then I went down to a 3. Even just you guys talking about your scores.
I was in the middle of 3.5 to 3 too, because I feel like when I started, I was at a 4.
Okay.
So it kind of, it's trickled a little. I guess I'll kind of agree with you guys. I'll say like a 3.5 too. But I feel like 3 is kind of a little low now.
No, I was wavering between 3.5 and 3.75. So I was wavering on the up end. So we're all.
I think because I was put on the spot first. I was like,
oh, sorry.
But,
I mean, you can change it. You can change it if you want.
We're all looking at you like judging you. What
I know.
Are you gonna rate it?
I know, because I'm like, I promise you, I'm not like a terrible person.
I don't think that.
Yes.
Yeah, I feel the same. And Jensen, just to like, I think there's something about if you're making a horror movie, the goal is to scare people, and
True.
if what you're doing is you're pointing at something that really happened in real life.
Yeah.
And you're saying, this is what happened. Damn. Can I fault you for that? Like, I don't know. And like, maybe I'm making excuses and maybe that's controversial. I don't know. I think there's something to exploiting it. And I don't think we'll ever know because we don't know what the intent of this director was in making this movie.
True.
But if he could have been like many people, and like I will say myself, fascinated with the idea of how can you snuff out a life. I've talked about this before. It's one of the things that is the most mind-blowing thing to me because I cannot even fathom. I cannot even begin to fathom what it would be like. It's just completely insane to me that you could take somebody's life or want to take somebody's life.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. That is fucking crazy. And I think that's why it's one of the scariest things to me.
Yeah.
So to point at that thing and put somebody in the shoes of somebody who wants to commit that type of crime is in itself horror. And so like,
Yeah.
And just to take the like feelings out of it too, and not like look at that person and be like, that's a person that has feelings and loved ones.
yes,
And whatever, like, and just, I just want to do it for myself. Cause like, I want to be whatever, like thrilled or, like whatever it may be. It's like, they don't have the empathy. Like we've just talked about, like with everything with like us picking up a random person in our car. They're just like, no, like that's just an object pretty much for me to feel something for 20 minutes. And then you ruin so many people's lives
exactly
by taking that person away.
It's terrifying.
Awful.
It's absolutely terrifying.
And it's like, that's why it's kind of fascinating, like learning the brains of these people.
Yeah.
Because it's like, who thinks like that? Because like, I know none of us do. And like, nobody I know does. But there's so many people out there that do. And it's like, you could just go on about it because it's so fascinating. And also terrifying and sad and awful. And many other words. But
and inspiring too, because there were a lot of films that were inspired by this. So we didn't even talk about like Henry Portrait of a Serial Killer.
I was going to mention that one because
Jack
it kind of
built.
reminds me of this one. Yeah.
Yeah. So
the documentary style, that's not like a documentary, but they are very similar.
Yeah. There's like you said, Jensen, there's artistic merit to this, you know? So I think there's something to be said for that. So that's why I inched back up to 3.5 it like my cutoff is 3. I would recommend somebody watch it. This wouldn't be a very specific person. I would have to be like
someone that like all that appreciates certain movies and like filming styles, not someone like off the street like your coworker or something like, oh, what should I watch? Watch this one.
Right.
Yeah, they never show back up.
This is the one for you.
Exactly.
That's it. Do you guys want to give another shout out, tell people where they can find you, talk about your podcast, or anything else that you have coming up that you're excited about?
Yes. I don't have a whole lot coming up. Like me and Jensen have our episodes, which I'm very excited about. But yes, our podcast is the Fright Crew pod. Is that?
We got the Fright Crew pod on TikTok if you want to catch, like we have plenty of movie suggestions on there. Oh, whatever.
I shouldn't leave it to me.
No,
he's a TikTok guy. He's got us like he's got himself like 10K views, 10K likes. It's insane.
Wow.
I'm obsessed.
Amazing. I know you're doing a really great job.
I'm obsessed with your TikTok. I'm liking everything.
It's
and
a good
like I
time
told
over
him,
there.
I'm like, I can't like tiptoe my way in there because people are going to be like, who the fuck is this on Jensen's
People are going to be like, hello?
Yeah. They're like, yeah, she doesn't know what she's talking about. She fills in her eyebrows. She's dumb.
Yeah, we're also the Fright Crew on Insta.
The Fright Crew on Instagram. Yes, that is where I'm more so.
Courtney, we're doing right now. Our theme is back to school.
Oh, fun.
Yeah. So we've covered. My pick was The Faculty. Yours,
we did Jennifer's Body yesterday.
Jennifer's
that
Body.
Was my
we
pick.
recorded that.
Nice.
Yeah.
So which has been a long time coming for you. And then so we just started having a good old time over there. Yeah.
And hopefully we will have you guys on soon.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Do you have any fun Halloween? Like, are you doing anything cool for October?
We typically do. We usually do like some bonus episodes, some guest features and stuff like that. And there's definitely been in talks of like how we can ramp up even more stuff. It's just we're also so busy, and I also run another podcast with my wife that's That's Not Normal, where we talk about like cryptids and demons and shit like that. So it's more of the fun like based on real life kind of stuff. We just do like the Belmez faces and things like that. So that's been a lot of my focus as well. So yeah, it's just like, it's hard to get, especially when they're so closely aligned. Like I'd love to have like as many people on every podcast that I do, you know? So it's just hard to get like schedules balanced and shit, but we all understand that here. We're all podcasters. So there's always a lot going on for sure. So
just followed your show.
Oh, there you go. Yeah. It's a fun time for sure. October is always so busy. It's fun. It's our time of year.
It is my favorite.
It's our Christmas.
I live my whole life just like crawling towards October, and then
Waiting.
October comes,
Yeah.
and I'm like the costumes and the all that stuff, because I go kind
Things
of
to do.
overboard on Halloween costumes.
Decorating.
Every
It's-
year, and like my whole year just revolves around like what I'm going to be dressing up as in October. So I do have quite a few ideas that I'm very excited about, but I'm very excited for the podcast in October too, because I feel like we're gonna have some cool stuff.
Yeah. Always got some cool stuff.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you both so much. It was a blast. Don't think bad of me for saying that. We had deep
No,
conversations, but I love that we had like deep, honest conversations, new ways to view things, new, insights about the movie. Thank you for bringing this movie to us. Like I mentioned in the beginning, I don't think I would have ever watched it. I don't know, maybe at some point, but I'm glad I did. This was, I said I wanted to be deeply disturbed. Check.
Here you go.
That worked. Thank you. Oh, wonderful. All right. So you can find, next we're watching Barbarian. Sorry.
Yes.
We're watching Barbarian next week. So stay tuned for that. But you can find us everywhere at Two Chicks and a Horror Flick, especially if you go to Instagram or our webpage, Two Chicks and a Horror Flick. We have a link. It'll link you out to anywhere else, any social media platform that you prefer. If you want to buy some merch, if you want to join our Discord community where we get to talk all things horror, true crime, whatever. We talk about romance and stuff in there too if we want to. Please do join us. And what else, Tawny?
You can support the show by going to our Patreon or giving us a like, review, and subscribe on whatever podcatcher you're listening to us. Thank you guys so much again for being on. This was a fantastic episode.
Thank you.
Yeah,
We've been
thank you
looking forward to
guys.
this for a long time.
Yes.
Yeah.
You guys are definitely one of I always say this, but you guys are another staple in the community of horror podcasters, and
Thank you.
love just like seeing you guys put out new episodes all the time. And yeah, it's another group of people who you just support other podcasters, and we're all trying to do the same thing where we just, it's just a wholesome community. We talked about the most fucked up thing just now, but at the same time, we're like, I feel embraced. Exactly.
Tears in my eyes. I want to hug you both.
We're throwing little heart signs.
So no, for real. Thank you guys so much. And if I were to tell your listener anything, definitely go. If you haven't reviewed Two Chicks and a Horror Flick, what are you doing? I'm going to come to your house and invade your home. Yeah. So give them a 5-star, please, because they deserve it. So,
and also your guys' podcast name is probably my favorite ever.
Oh,
I love it. It's so clever. It's amazing.
yes.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Oh, you guys are the best. Obviously, check out the Fright Crew if you haven't. Go listen to them. Go listen to their episodes. Give them a review because they're the best.
We say some weird shit, so prepare yourself.
We love it. Obviously, we're on board for the weird shit, the weird shit crew. So we hope you guys have such a good night. No nightmares.